From FBI to DEA. The promise. Every drug lord currently on the DEA's most wanted list. A couple weeks ago, I made a video about the FBI's most wanted list, explaining who was on it and why they were there. You guys seem to really enjoy that topic, and in that video, I said if you wanted more videos about more lists, I would make them. And I'm a man of my word. So today, we're going to be discussing the DEA's most wanted list. The DEA is the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, and it's essentially the governing body over drug activity in the United States. If you've ever watched Breaking Bad, then you're probably already pretty familiar with how involved the DEA is in this world. With that being said, let's talk about the drug lords that the DEA is currently looking for. These are not small-time dealers. These are people connected to international trafficking operations, violent cartels, and drug networks that span multiple countries. Some of these names you may recognize, others you probably won't. Some of them have already been captured, while others are still completely at large. And while this list is long and at times repetitive, there are a few entries here that are genuinely surprising. So, as we go through this list, keep one thing in mind. This isn't just about drugs. It's about power, money, violence, and the systems that allow these people to operate for years before they're finally caught, if they're caught at all. Silano Francisco Marano Ciano, the fentanyl lab operator. Silano Francisco Marano Ciano, also known as Rayo or Rito, is a 5'9" male born in 1981. And it probably comes as no surprise that this drug lord is wanted for drugs. But let's make this a little more interesting. Quickly think for a second, what drug do you think this man was involved with, and what do you think his role was? According to the DEA, Ciano allegedly operated secret laboratories for the Sinaloa cartel. These laboratories produced fentanyl made from precursor chemicals imported from China, processed in Mexico, and then distributed into the United States. That was his alleged role in the operation. As for his list of offenses, it's a long one. Ciano is wanted for alleged federal violations, including fentanyl importation conspiracy, fentanyl trafficking, conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices, and money laundering. It's a pretty insane list when you see it all together, and it's no surprise that he's considered armed and dangerous. Because of that, the DEA offered a reward of up to $1 million for any information leading to his capture. However, if you were hoping to cash in, you're a bit late. At the time of recording, Ciano was actually captured, and while he's still listed on the most wanted list, it's at least a positive way to start this video, with justice being served. Lauro Nunez Air, same crime, still free. Lauro Nunez Air, also known as Cara, is a bit of an older gentleman. He stands at 5'10", weighs around 190 pounds, and was born in 1957, which means he either didn't save for retirement or he just really loves his job. Jokes aside, the crimes this man is alleged to be involved in are no laughing matter. Just like the previous fugitive, take a second and think about what his involvement might have been and what drug you think he was connected to. According to federal allegations, Lauro is wanted for fentanyl importation conspiracy, fentanyl trafficking conspiracy, conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices, and money laundering conspiracy. If that list sounds familiar, that's because it's almost identical to the one we just went over. And honestly, that makes sense. This is the most wanted list, and these are some of the most serious drug-related charges the government can bring. What makes Lauro even more concerning is that his last known location is completely unknown. He could be anywhere, and because of that, the DEA is offering a reward of up to $1 million for any information leading to his arrest. Like the others, he's considered armed and dangerous. And unlike the first entry, he's still out there. Alan Gabriel Nunez. Herrera. The Invisible Player. Alan Gabriel Nunez. Herrera is an interesting case, mostly because even less is known about him than the previous two entries. Before we get into it, I'll just say this now. I know I've mispronounced Spanish names in the past, and I can already hear the comments. I'm trying my best here. What makes Alan stand out on this list is how little information exists about him. Not only is his last known location unknown, but his height and weight aren't even listed. All that's confirmed is that he's male and was born in 1993, making him the youngest entry on the list so far. Despite the lack of personal details, his alleged federal violations look very familiar. Alan is wanted for fentanyl importation conspiracy, fentanyl trafficking conspiracy, conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices, and money laundering conspiracy. At this point, the pattern is hard to ignore. The charges are almost identical, and it gives you a pretty clear picture of what it takes to end up on the DEA's most wanted list. Alan may be the youngest and least documented so far, but that doesn't make him any less dangerous. Twin Yip, the man who sold the ingredients. Up to this point, the list has been pretty formulaic. Same drugs, same charges, same patterns. But Twin Yip is where everything starts to change. Yip stands at 5 feet 8, weighs around 150 pounds, and was born in 1953, making him even older than the last fugitive we talked about. And before we get into his case, take a second and guess. What do you think his drug of choice was? And what do you think his role in all of this might have been? Unlike the others, Yip wasn't directly manufacturing or trafficking finished drugs. Instead, he was involved in something much more subtle, and arguably just as dangerous. Federal charges allege that Yip ran a massive chemical distribution scheme, supplying precursor chemicals used to manufacture both fentanyl and anabolic steroids. According to court documents, Yip is believed to be one of the largest anabolic steroid producers in the world, and that alone is pretty insane, considering he looks like the last person you'd expect to be connected to something like that. But that may be exactly why he managed to operate for so long without drawing attention. The specific charges against Yip include conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute anabolic steroids, conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute fentanyl precursors, conspiracy to import anabolic steroids, and manufacturing both steroids and fentanyl precursors with knowledge that they were unlawfully imported. In November of 2021, the U.S. Attorney's Office seized a cryptocurrency wallet linked to Yip containing over $2.3 million. And while that sounds like a lot, it's likely just a fraction of what was actually moving through his operation. Yip is believed to still reside in Wuhan, China, where he owned and operated the YC Chemical Group. According to federal filings, his company produced and distributed roughly $280 million worth of anabolic steroids over 5 years, with more than $55 million of that entering the United States. It's a perfect example of why you should never judge a book by its cover. So far, the most unassuming person on this list may also be one of the most impactful, and because of that, the DEA is offering up to $5 million for information leading to his arrest. Ivan El Chapito Guzman Salazar, the heir, Ivan Arnaldo Guzman. Salazar is where this list starts to feel genuinely unsettling. Ivan is a 5 feet 8, 165-pound male born in 1983, and his last known location is unknown. But his nickname tells you almost everything you need to know. He's known as El Chapito, which literally translates to Little Chapo. Ivan is the son of El Chapo, the former leader of the Sinaloa cartel, who was extradited to the United States in 2017. And unlike some cartel heirs who live in the shadow of their fathers, Ivan stepped directly into a leadership role. According to the DEA, Ivan shares responsibility for leading the Sinaloa cartel's massive fentanyl trafficking operation. His alleged involvement includes coordinating the shipment of fentanyl precursor chemicals from China to Mexico, overseeing the manufacturing process, and directing the trafficking of fentanyl into the United States. On top of that, he's also believed to be involved in the coordination and distribution of other controlled substances on behalf of the cartel. But Ivan's role doesn't stop at drugs. He's also responsible for security. Ivan commands Los Chapitos' armed wing, known as Los Sicarios, alongside his brothers. These groups function as an enforcement force, protecting cartel operations and expanding territory through violence when necessary. One of Ivan's brothers has already been extradited to the United States and is currently facing drug charges. Ivan, however, remains at large, and because of his role in fueling the fentanyl crisis, the DEA is offering a reward of up to $10 million for information leading to his capture. Oscar Noe Medina Gonzalez, the enforcer. Oscar Noe Medina Gonzalez is closely connected to Ivan Guzman Salazar, and at this point, that should already tell you a lot. Oscar is a 5'8", 160-pound male born in 1983, his last known location unknown, and he goes by the alias Panu. Oscar isn't just another member of the Sinaloa cartel. According to the DEA, he's a high-level leader and effectively El Chapito's right-hand man. While Ivan helps oversee the broader operation, Oscar is responsible for the day-to-day command of the cartel's security forces. He allegedly supervises regional commanders and directs the cartel's gunmen, known as Los Sicarios. These are the individuals tasked with protecting trafficking routes, enforcing cartel control, and carrying out violent actions against rival groups when needed. It's organized, deliberate, and extremely violent. As for the charges, they follow a familiar pattern. Oscar is wanted for continuing criminal enterprise, fentanyl importation conspiracy, fentanyl trafficking conspiracy, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. These are the same blanket charges applied to many cartel leaders, but in Oscar's case, the violence behind them is well documented. Because of his role in enforcing cartel power, Oscar is considered armed and extremely dangerous. The DEA is currently offering up to $4 million for information leading to his arrest. K. Jung, the chemical supplier. K. Jung is one of the more elusive figures on this list. There's very little publicly available information about him. His height, weight, age, and last known address aren't listed. All that's known is that he's believed to be operating out of China. Despite the lack of personal details, there is information about his role in the fentanyl supply chain. According to federal allegations, Jung worked for a chemical company that manufactured and supplied precursor chemicals used to produce fentanyl. These chemicals were then exported overseas, primarily to Mexico. In 2021, a co-conspirator in Mexico purchased 25 kilograms of fentanyl precursor chemicals from Jung and his company on behalf of the Sinaloa cartel. The shipment was sent directly from China to Mexico and arrived at the Guadalajara International Airport just days later. Mexican law enforcement seized the shipment at the airport before it could be moved further into the country. That seizure put Jung on the radar. On April 4, 2023, a federal grand jury returned an indictment charging Jung with fentanyl importation conspiracy, fentanyl trafficking conspiracy, and money laundering conspiracy. Jung remains one of the DEA's most wanted individuals, with a reward of up to $1 million for information leading to his. Carlos Omar Felix Gutierrez. The youngest capture. Carlos Omar Felix Gutierrez is officially the youngest individual on this list. He's a 5'6", 165-pound male born in 2000, and like some of the earlier entries, his role was centered around fentanyl laboratories operating in Mexico. According to federal allegations, Carlos helped operate secret fentanyl labs, producing the drug from precursor chemicals that were later trafficked into the United States. His charges closely mirror those of Solano Francisco Marano Ciano, including fentanyl importation conspiracy, fentanyl trafficking conspiracy, conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices, and money laundering. Unlike many others on this list, Carlos was actually captured. On March 16, 2023, Carlos and a partner were arrested by Colombian judicial police as they were getting off a commercial flight in Bogotá. The arrest was carried out based on charges filed by a federal grand jury in the Southern District of New York. Carlos remains in custody and is currently awaiting extradition proceedings. And even though he's been captured, the DEA still lists a $1 million reward tied to information that helps secure his conviction. Nemesio El Mencho, Oseguera Cervantes, pure violence, Nemesio Oseguera. Cervantes may be the most feared and powerful individual on this entire list. He stands at 5 feet 7, weighs around 150 pounds, and was born in 1966. His last known location is Mexico, and he's better known by the name El Mencho, the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG. To understand how seriously authorities take him, you only need to look at the reward. The DEA is offering up to $15 million for information leading to his arrest, the highest reward on this list by a wide margin, and there's a reason for that. Under El Mencho's command, CJNG has grown into one of Mexico's most powerful and violent criminal organizations. In 2012, when Mexican federal police made it known they were actively searching for him, CJNG responded with coordinated attacks. Gang members hijacked and set fire to at least 37 vehicles, blocking major highways throughout the Guadalajara metropolitan area. These blockades were placed strategically to prevent police reinforcements from entering or leaving the city. When it was over, authorities confirmed that El Mencho had escaped, and the cartel's operation had worked. Since then, CJNG and Mexican law enforcement have engaged in multiple violent firefights, leaving dozens of officers and cartel members dead. El Mencho is wanted for large-scale drug trafficking, organized crime, and illegal possession of firearms. This isn't just a drug lord. This is someone with the resources, manpower, and willingness to openly challenge the state and win. The fentanyl pipeline and Julian Adan Alagomez. Before we get to the final name on this list, there's one thing that becomes very clear after looking at all of these cases together. The DEA's primary focus right now is fentanyl. Every single person we've talked about is connected to it in some way, either directly or indirectly. At the center of this entire operation are the Chapitos. After their father was arrested, the Sinaloa cartel shifted heavily toward fentanyl. It was cheaper to produce, far more potent, easier to smuggle, and significantly more profitable than drugs like heroin or cocaine. To make that possible, they built relationships with chemical suppliers in China, shipped precursor chemicals into Mexico, manufactured fentanyl there, and then trafficked it into the United States. According to the DEA, authorities have seized over 5 million fentanyl-laced pills, more than 231 pounds of fentanyl powder, and over 82 pounds of fentanyl precursor chemicals. Combined, that's enough to create nearly 23 million potentially lethal doses. And that brings us to the final fugitive on this list, Julian Adan Alagomez. If that name sounds familiar, it's because he also appears on the FBI's most wanted list. Julian is a 5'5", 160-pound male born in 1982, believed to be operating out of Honduras. He's suspected to be a leader of the MS-13 gang and is accused of providing firearms, narcotics, and money to gang members operating inside the United States. For that, the DEA is offering up to $5 million for information leading to his arrest. And with that, this list comes to an end. These aren't just criminals. They're part of a system that continues to fuel one of the deadliest drug crises in history.